Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today I just wanted to do a quick video on just a topic that popped up on social networks, or you could say an incident, a video that kind of, people weren't too happy with some of the things this guy had to say. So it figures into what I've said about this type of I don't know, it's kind of like a subject that just remains in the psyche of just Brazilians. Of course, I'm not condemning and saying everybody thinks this way, but when you hear enough of comments like these, jokes, insults, it gets to say, okay, well, this is not just a thing that's of an individual. It's the whole country uh, still has opinions, in some ways has some nostalgia about this period, 350-year experiment with slavery in Brazil. I've shown in videos and posts on the blog that it's a shame because even today in Brazil, some 100 and I don't know 130, 140 years after the slavery ended there, you still have just numerous stories of people being freed from conditions that's analogous to slavery today. So you just really have to just wonder, what's going on with how so many Brazilians always seem to be thinking about slavery. It speaks to how Brazilians still look at the Black population today. Okay. So I'm doing this video today. It's going to be kind of quick, but it's some guy popped up on social networks some days ago, and he caused a stir with some of the things he said in his video. So the video is called "Blacks Have to Have Their Backs Whipped, Drink Water from the Toilet." After racist comments online, man arrested in Belo Horizonte. For those of you who don't know, Belo Horizonte is the capital city of the state of Minas Gerais. So this has to do with this bartender who, he felt the will to go online and just make certain comments. Then people didn't really appreciate what he had to say. So before I get into this video, definitely like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell so you'll know when I put up new videos. And with that said, let's get directly into this incident. So this is the guy here. It always cracks me up when I look at people who look like this guy, and it's just, again, it calls into question the idea of whiteness in Brazil. Because this guy is making jokes about slavery, and he's making jokes about where Black people are supposed to be and what they don't deserve. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if this guy had African ancestry himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he had some Native American heritage. I don't know. I'm not saying I subscribe to a one drop rule. I've said that over and over again. But what I'm saying is that you can look at this guy and be like, okay, I don't know what he considers himself, but I definitely know in the United States, nobody would consider this guy to be white. But yet he's making jokes about slavery as if he positions himself with what they call branquitude in Brazil, branquitude being Portuguese for whiteness. And it's not just about the color of the skin, but about the mentality that says people of European ancestry, or primarily European ancestry, are superior to those who are not. That's what I get from the comments that he makes. And anytime somebody in Brazil makes these types of comments, I mean, what is he trying to say by making such disparaging remarks about Black people? Okay. So let me talk a little bit about, before I get into the video, again, let's remember that in this context, Brazil has a long history of slavery, over 350 years of slavery. Brazil brought in the most Africans that were enslaved by the Portuguese, or just enslaved by Europeans in general. I always make sure that people know Brazil brought in anywhere from 10 to 12, maybe 15 times more enslaved Africans than the United States did. And slavery lasted longest in Brazil, ending in only 1888, some 2.5 decades after it ended in the United States. So the point of this video is, again, I'm highlighting the fact that when you follow enough of what's going on in Brazil and social networks, what people say, you just get an idea that I did an article about this some years ago where it seemed like Brazilians seem to have some type of nostalgia for the slavery era. There was actually an article that I did with that exact title, just because of the comments that people make online. People, who are you talking to? If this was still slavery, I'd put a whip to your back. Or, they'll say to a black woman, if we were back in the slave era, I'd have my way with you. They just feel the authority to be able to say these types of things to black people that always refer to slavery as if again, they seem to want to have a throwback to the slavery era. I've done a number of posts over the years that seem to highlight this nostalgia for slavery. So that's why I wanted to talk about this video today. I'm not going to do a full, let's say, translation or overdub of what he said, because I'm gonna just read what his comments were. You get a gist of what he had to say. Like, again, why? I struggle to understand why it is. And you guys feel free to drop a comment, maybe, tell me what you think about this. But okay, first of all, slavery has been a thing that has existed in human history for many years, decades, centuries. It's not just something that's associated with modern day black people or, even black people 300-400 years ago. If you look at the history of the world, you see that groups from all over the world have been enslaved. But my question is, why is it that people still have this certain type of hatred for persons of visible African ancestry? I just, I try to understand that, and sometimes it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why the hatred for black people? I'm just curious about that. You know, as many crimes as people of European ancestry have committed over these, let's just say the last 5 centuries, any person who was a victim of that would have all the right to feel the way that they feel in towards of white people. But for example, I don't go out in the streets every day and just look at white people like, ugh. I don't have this animosity going around, with my person every day, where every time I see a white person, I just lose my mind. And I just wonder, why is it that, of course, I'm not saying all white people feel this way. I'm just saying, when you're black and you exist in a world that puts whiteness at the top of the racial hierarchy, I don't get it. I mean, if society, the media puts persons of visible European ancestry at the top of the hierarchy, where is this animosity against black people coming from? I never could understand that. So, and when I talk about race, I want people to understand, I don't say every white person that I come across has these type of sentiments. I'm not saying that at all. It's just that white people have to put themselves in the shoes of a black person. When we come in contact with persons who look white, we have to be able to know, are we dealing with a white person who just sees me as a person? Or are we dealing with a white person who looks at me as if I'm still a slave or I'm beneath them? That's an honest question. Anyway, let's get into this video for today. Let's get into what this guy had to say, and then I'm going to put it a little bit more into context, because it's always intriguing when I see stories like this. So this is Alessandro Pereira de Oliveira, 36 years old. This guy, he says, damned Princess Isabel. Man investigated for racist remarks. A bar employee of Belo Horizonte criticized the abolition of slavery in Brazil and said that black people had to drink water from the toilet. So today's story is courtesy of Space Money, the Brazilian version of the Space Money website, as well as the Africanized Brazilian edition of that website. Okay. The Public Prosecutor's Office of Minas Gerais is investigating a bar employee in Belo Horizonte who last Friday the 18th posted a video on social media with racist content. Alessandro Pereira de Oliveira, 36, has been on the run since the incident. That's this guy right here. The video that led to Alessandro's arrest was recorded at the bar where he worked, located in the Universitario neighborhood in the Pampulha region. The recording took place last Thursday when a customer asked Alessandro to wash a dirty dish. Now, he said in his comments, he says, damn that Princess Isabel. Princess Isabel is this woman here. She is responsible for officially abolishing slavery on May 13th, 1888. This is what this says. Princess Isabel signs the Golden Law in 1888, which abolished slavery in Brazil. Princess Isabel was born in Rio de Janeiro, 1846. She's the eldest daughter of Emperor Pedro II and Empress Teresa Cristina. She acted as a regent for her father when he was abroad. The Lei Áurea, or the Golden Law, was law number 3353, passed by the Brazilian Parliament on May 13th, 1888. It had two articles. Article 1 declared slavery abolished, and Article 2 revoked any contrary dispositions. Why was the Golden Law important? Brazil became the last civilized nation to abolish slavery as a legal institution. The law was broadly popular, but there was strong opposition to Isabel's succession to the throne. Okay, what I want to point out here, let me see if I can find the article that I'm looking for, because the battle over slavery and memories of slavery, Brazil's Black social rights movement have been arguing and disputing for years. A lot of people in Brazilian society still seems to believe that just because Princess Isabel signed this golden law, she is the great redeemer. She's the hero of Brazilian history. When what the Movimento Negro is saying, like, no, it wasn't just Princess Isabel. She was pressured by numerous Black activists and abolitionists of all colors that pushed her to sign this law. Okay. So this says Movimento Negro interrupts a tribute to Princess Isabel in Brazil's Congress. They took over, a recognition to Princess Isabel to remind people, like, no, it wasn't just Princess Isabel. Numerous abolitionists and, Black activists of that era, late 19th century, their activism, protest led to basically forcing her to move to signing this document that would free the remaining slaves that were, enslaved in Brazil. This article right here says abolition of slavery in Brazil wasn't a gift given from whites, says historian, well, I don't know how you pronounce her name, Wilhelmina Albuquerque. Blacks played a huge role in the end of human bondage. So they wanted to just change how, history is interpreted. You don't just give all the credit to this woman, the daughter of the emperor of Brazil. You have numerous other, people who participated in the abolitionist cause. Andre Rebouças, Dragão do Mar, Luiz Gama, Adelina, Maria Firmina dos Reis. These are all, and this woman as well, but 5 out of these 6 pictures are persons of visible African ancestry, Afro-Brazilians, who participated in pushing Princess Isabel to abolish slavery. So that's why they want to reinterpret how history has been taught, because you go to Brazilian schools and they'll tell you, like, well, Blacks were freed because Princess Isabel signed this law in 1888. And I'm not saying that that's not true. It's just that history often leaves out what was going on in the background, what, the activism that pushed her to move towards abolition of slavery in Brazil. So with that context, let's keep this this incident in mind. Well, let's keep this history of abolition and slavery in Brazil. Let's keep that in mind as we go through this article and this video of what this guy had to say. In the video, the man criticized the Golden Law signed by Princess Isabel to end slavery in Brazil in 1888 and made a speech with racist slur. Check out what he said below. Okay, so this is the guy who was making the comments. He says, yeah, boy, working in a bar isn't easy. You have to put up with a lot of ish, we'll say. That damn Princess Isabel who signed that golden law to end slavery. Black people have to be whipped on the whipping post. No talk. Don't know if Black people have any reason to complain about an effing glass. This disgrace has to drink water from the toilet. To tell you the truth, I should have lived in the times of the barons. Cut this whole race up with a whip, tied them to the whipping post and whip cracking on their backs. Tie them up in an iron box and leave them in the sun all day long. Have to put up with monkeys here giving me a hard time. So he's complaining, apparently because somebody asked him for a clean glass. It says he works in a bar. I guess that means he's the bartender, and somebody asked him for a clean glass, so then he goes off in this manner. Not only that, but, having to serve someone as Black, he feels the need to bring slavery back in, as if, why did Princess Isabel sign that document? These Black people should still be getting a whip on their back. Why, Brazil? I still don't get it. According to the president of the Commission of the Promotion of Racial Equality of the Brazilian Bar Association, Gilberto Silva, there is no doubt that the man committed the crime of racism. With the video's repercussions on social media, the public prosecutor's office called in the police to investigate the crime of racism. Alendir Barreto Lima da Silva from the Coordination for Combating Racism and Other Forms of Discrimination was the one who referred the case. The news of this serious crime allegedly committed by this man came to our attention through social movements. Although I wasn't on duty, I opened a fact-finding procedure at the coordination office and have already asked DECRIN, or the Special Police Station for the Repression of Crimes of Racial Discrimination, religious discrimination, crimes of sexual orientation, and crimes against the elderly or disabled, and the Human Rights Prosecutor's Office to take action, said Barreto. Again, another picture of the guy, at the center of this controversy. Man arrested in Belo Horizonte after posting racist video criticizing the abolition of slavery. So he was arrested for this. The suspect, who already had a warrant out for his arrest for domestic violence, was located and arrested after posting a video with racist remarks and criticism of the Golden Law. Oliveira was arrested on Wednesday, October 23rd by the Minas Gerais military police after recording and posting the video. Oliveira also had an outstanding arrest warrant for the crime of domestic and family violence against women. According to the military police, the man has a history of run-ins with the police. So the man who recorded the video with racist content has 86 registration of police, let's say, incidents where the police had to be called in, crimes or assaults or whatever. This dude has 86 reports on his police record. So obviously he's not new to either verbal or physical violence. 86 reports. The recording has been circulating on social media since the early hours of Friday, October 18th, generating widespread repercussions and indignation. This is from the Dilma Resistente Twitter page, or X, or the Resistant Dilma, of course, referring to Brazil's first and only female president. So then this account says, let's make this piece of ish famous. Prison is not enough. The advance of the far right, with it, the rise of racist racial supremacists give wings to these excrements. His name is Alessandro Pereira, or Pereira de Oliveira, and he's already been fired from the bar where he worked. So he got fired, and then he was arrested for his actions and the words he used on social networks. Given the seriousness of the case, the Public Prosecutor's Office of Minas Gerais requested an investigation. We became aware of this citizen's presence in Belo Horizonte after the repercussions of his comments on social media, said Lieutenant Colonel Eduardo Lopes, commander of the 13th Military Police Battalion. Based on this information, the military police's intelligence service began monitoring the suspect. Oliveira worked in a bar in the Universitario neighborhood in the Pampulha region of Belo Horizonte, but he was fired after his employer found out about the racist video. The suspect was located in the Jaqueline neighborhood, where he was hiding in an apartment. When he realized he had no way of escaping, he gave himself up to the police. He is being recaptured and will also respond for crimes of racism, said Lieutenant Colonel Lopes, highlighting the operation that involved the Disque Denúncia and the PM's Tático Móvel team. Disque Denúncia being just like a hotline for reporting, racist crime or just all types of crimes. So, intriguing. Once again, another example of how I say Brazilians seem to have a certain nostalgia for the slave era. Have plenty examples of that. You go to blackbraziltoday.com and you just see it. Remember, I showed you this in 2018, this article I did. There was, I don't know if this motel still exists, but while it was up, I had to do a story about it. Located in southern Brazil in Porto Alegre, in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, you can go to this motel with a senzala, or slave quarters theme, complete with chains, shackles, and cages. Who came up with the idea for that? A slavery themed motel. The worst moment of school was when they talked about slavery. I felt embarrassed, humiliated. The embarrassment of Black children in classes about slavery and abolition, which is how Black people are, portrayed in Brazil's history books. Throwback to the slavery era in the city of Açores, a descendant of plantation owner dresses as a mistress and employees as slaves to greet and serve tourists. Black children are dressed as slaves on Brazil's Independence Day civic parade in Paraná State in southern Brazil. Goes on and on. What else do we have here? Again, go back to the slave quarters and straighten that hair. Black woman punched and dragged by her hair in a pub. Aggressor pays a fine and walks free. Go back to your slave quarters. Woman arrested after racist act in supermarket in the south zone of Rio de Janeiro. And again, I've talked about modern day slavery that's going on in Brazil today, with people working in conditions that's kind of similar to slavery. Somebody made a joke at the Getulio Vargas Foundation. It's a college I think that this one is in Sao Paulo. Said, I found this slave in the smoking era. Whoever the owner of this slave is, let me know. Student at FGV's college, suspended for racist comment and posting a photo of a black student that he was referring to. So then, again, the association with black people in Brazil to slavery, 25 curious facts about slavery in Brazil, what happened the day after the abolition of slavery, and on and on. So this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, because it just shows again, why is it that Brazilians still have this in the back of their minds, in their psyche, about black people are still slaves. You guys, we're still going to treat you as slaves. Again, I don't know. You look at this guy, and this guy doesn't necessarily look white to me. He looks like what they would call a mestizo, a person of mixed race. But again, maybe he's considered Brazilian white. But to my eyes, this guy's adapting this ideal of white superiority, and he doesn't necessarily look white to me. It's very intriguing how Brazilians deal with this race issue. So anyway, that's why I wanted to, share this video today. What did you guys think? Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel if you've seen more than a few videos that you found intriguing, and click on the notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. With that said, going to end this video here right now and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post here at Black Brazil Today.